The agenda this week caught up with health reporter André Picard on the COVID-19 pandemic. We got advice on dealing with personal financial issues in these difficult times and surveyed the big picture economic challenges the crisis presents. The agenda's Week in Review begins myth-busting some of the questionable information flying around out there. How would you characterize the threat that misinformation poses when we're in the midst of a global pandemic?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, it really has had a tremendous impact. And of course, part of the reasons is this is the first pandemic in the social media age. And so we're seeing so much information on social media that's getting shared. And that's a really important point. A lot of people are sharing this stuff, and it's creating an incredibly chaotic information environment, right? Which is, really, I think, really problematic. And we're seeing misinformation about everything again from the source. That's starting to fade a little bit. I think now the dominant bits of misinformation are largely focused on cures and preventative strategies, and things that you can do even around your home, ways that you can disinfect your house. That is really problematic. And to be honest with you, depending on how you categorize disinformation and misinformation, some of this is disinformation because it's marketing, Steve. They're trying to use this moment to leverage profits. At times, I think there are practitioners out there, alternative practitioners, who really may believe they're doing good and that the advice is sound, but it's still misinformation when you look at it from a scientific perspective.
Okay, Jane, you've been looking at it all. Can you give us, your top three least favorite misinformation attempts by people in the midst of this thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So the top one I would say would be false cures. And this generally looks like YouTube videos that are telling you to inhale hot air. Sometimes this looks like supplement sales, which sort of coyly hint at boosting your immune system. And sometimes it's bad advice, like drinking water every 15 minutes because your stomach acid may kill the coronavirus, which there's absolutely no evidence for.
And Timothy, forgive me, go ahead, keep going.
My apologies, just the one other thing that we're seeing a lot of is reports that cities are about to shut down that are attributed to various figures of authority. And those figures of authority have had to debunk a fair amount of these rumors.
Indeed. We saw the mayor of Toronto, in fact, John Tory, on Twitter the other day saying, I don't know what rumors you folks are hearing, but they're not true, and let's not get ahead of ourselves on all of this stuff. But having said that, Timothy, can you tell us, if somebody wants to go out there and inhale hot air because they think it's going to make them healthier, is there any harm in that, actually?
Yeah, I think there is, and I agree with Jane's list. The cures, it's infuriating, right? It's infuriating. There is harm. So, sometimes there's physical harm associated with some of these alleged cures. Like if you think of something like a lot of, for example, alternative practitioners are offering IV vitamin therapy. That can be harmful. Too much vitamins, too many supplements can actually be harmful, and there's evidence to back that up. And there are other kinds of cures, like homeopathy, absolutely no evidence to support that at all, that can cause harm in a more subtle way by distracting us from strategies that may actually be efficacious. There could be also financial loss. And again, Steve, it goes back to this situation where you're just creating a chaotic environment, an information environment that makes it more difficult to follow the advice from those trusted sources, the World Health Organization, the Public Health Agency of Canada, and that's problematic in itself.
Let me just ask our director, Sheldon Osmond. Sheldon, can you go to the bottom of page 2 and let's just bring this tweet up from Jane, where she says there have been many companies coyly selling immunity-boosting products, hinting that the virus spread. While it is, of course, good to eat healthily, get lots of sleep and exercise, there are currently no known preventative treatments for COVID-19. And we see, Jane, you've brought this to our attention here, this ad for the best defense is a strong immune system, and then a whole host of products that are being offered which theoretically boost the immune system. Tell me what you find problematic here.
So the first thing is that it's definitely marketing to a vulnerable population. Everybody's afraid and everybody wants to not get this virus. So it's a very opportunistic type of marketing where they're not using the word coronavirus, but you know why they're sending you this email in this particular time.
Like many other people, I suspect, looking at Facebook a lot over the last couple of days and reading the accounts of many friends of mine who, let's say, have come back from international travels, and they are told to call various numbers, call telehealth or call your doctor, or call this 1-800 number to get expert advice on what to do. No one answers the phones. I think the website for the Ministry of Health in Ontario crashed today. People who want to get tested are told to call such and such a number to get tested. Nobody picks up the phone. You therefore can't make an appointment to get a test, and you need an appointment to get a test. Anyway, I could go on. It sounds like our institutions are completely overwhelmed right now in terms of dealing with the public. So should the public have a great deal of confidence in the system right now?
Well, I think there's no question that systems are overwhelmed, but we have to recognize this is an extremely unusual situation. In certain regards, we're reaping what we sowed. We've cut public health down to the bone, and then we complain we don't have people to answer the phone. So we have to, I think, when this is over, think a lot differently about how we fund these programs and recognize that there's a price to pay for not funding properly. So that being said, it comes back to, I think, we have to do our part. We can't magically create 1,000 811 operators. It takes a certain skill. So we have to do our part. We have to do these quizzes, not call if we're just the worried well. A lot of these lines are being overwhelmed by people who are fine and they're just worried. And you have to not call. You have to leave it to people who have symptoms to get help and to get advice. And you have to be a little bit patient. You have to put a little bit of water in your wine at a difficult time.
I come to you tonight, obviously, from one of the largest cities in the world that is populated by people of Italian heritage. And they are watching what is happening back in Italy and are astonished that a country with 2.5 times the population of ours, which is a G7 country, which is supposedly on the cutting edge of so much in terms of medical abilities, they're in deep trouble right now. And I think many people here are wondering, is it possible that whatever's going down in Italy right now could manifest itself here? What's your view on that?
Well, it unfortunately is very possible. We're seeing almost a repetition next door in Spain. A similar thing is happening. If you don't get a control of a virus early, it really just it explodes. For every person who infects 2 others, and it multiplies so quickly. Italy hesitated a little bit, and they're paying the price. And it's really a strong message to us that all this stuff that's being done now, it looks like excessive, closing bars, closing restaurants, closing schools. A lot of people are saying, why are we doing this? Isn't 400 people are sick? Well, we're doing this because we don't want to be Italy. And, if I've said often to people say that I'm scaremongering, etc. And my comment is always the same. I would be very happy if in a month or two that everything's fine and I look terrible. That would be the best case scenario for me. If we act so swiftly and so relentlessly that this doesn't really spread, that would be great.
Yeah, everything.
But, no.
Exactly. Everything I've read about this suggests that the big mistake that health authorities make around the world is that they're too worried about having just the perfect response, that the better response is always fast out the gate, don't let perfection be the enemy of the good, and get to it right away. Otherwise, you're behind the game and you lose. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. There's a good viral video going around of Mike Ryan from the World Health Organization, essentially talking about his, very long career. And that's his take-home message is make mistakes. It's better to overreact than underreact. And again, in Canada, we're very, very conservative. We go slowly, and there's a risk of us paying the price for that. It won't hurt us to go a little bit overboard, to do a little harm for some better long-term good.
Rona, maybe you could follow up with this. really give us the sort of stock market 101 answer to this. For people who aren't aware, how does what the market does affect everybody's personal investments?
Oh, well, to the degree that the behavior of the market creates uncertainty and fear, that will often lead to decisions to sell investments. And as you know, if there are way more sellers than there are buyers, you see a collapse in prices. And so even the everyday investor who has a long-term view is still going to see the value of their portfolios decline significantly, depending on how much equity exposure they have. So, whether you're a long-term investor or whether you were hoping for a quick return, everybody across the country is feeling the pain of what's been happening in the stock market this year. And it's very likely that more pain will come because this first leg down on the market has more to do with, this immediate concern that is shutting down the economy. And, if it lasts longer than anybody would expect at this point, then the ripple effect of the loss of jobs is going to create, a kind of a vacuum in profitability that could take the market a little bit lower. But in every difficult situation, Steve, there is always a silver lining if you can just look past the immediate concerns today.
Well, I don't want to fun and Dick and Jane this thing too much, but it's amazing how many times, Kathleen, I hear people say, well, I don't really buy and sell stocks, so the market doesn't affect me. And I say to them, well, have you got a mutual fund? Well, yeah, I do. Well, then, hello. We do have to remind people of that, right?
Yes, that's true. But if they're thinking that way, then they're thinking, okay, if I'm not looking at my investment, then maybe this is a great time. It's a set and forget kind of attitude towards investing, a very passive approach that will help to get through this time of uncertainty.
Okay. Rona, I know a great deal of fuss was made in the business pages about the fact that interest rates set by the Bank of Canada are basically at nil right now. I think it's less than 1%. But in terms of what that impact is on individuals, what can you tell us on that front?
Well, it depends on whether you're a borrower or whether you're an investor in conservative fixed income investors. So the borrower is getting a reprieve, lower interest rates, and in many cases, in terms of mortgages, a deferral of when they have to pay. So they have the opportunity now to actually, if they have a mortgage, lock into low long-term rates. And actually, if they're in the position to pay down their debt, they're going to make progress on it much, much faster, when rates are this low. For the GIC investor or bond investor, which are more like, more our retirees in this country, it has just made a difficult situation even worse because, if rates are as low as they are, you can maybe get 1% on your money. It's very hard if you're living on a fixed income to live on that dramatically reduced income. So I think both, anybody who's in stocks is suffering, and anyone actually is in fixed income is feeling pain as well. So I think it comes back to helping people understand what is within their control. Right? And what should they be doing?
Okay, let's pick up on that. That's a great point. Kathleen, what if you are advising people right now what they should be doing in terms of their own personal finances to weather this storm, what's the best advice, Kathleen, coming out of the gate right now?
So I think what everyone needs to do is basically do a financial assessment of what money is coming in and what money is coming out. So once you know if you have enough money to support all of your expenses, or if you don't, then okay, this is the magic number I need to make up with my emergency savings. Hopefully that's in cash and you can take those uninvested savings first. But if we have to sell some of your investments, then you don't want to sell too much at this time. You want to know the number that you need and take as needed.
All right, I want to switch now, if I can, to the border. Some significant announcements coming out of Ottawa today, and I guess to a lesser extent out of Queen's Park, because Premier Ford did say he wanted the border open to trade but closed to visitors, and that is in effect what the federal government announced today. No more international travelers, except for Americans, coming into Canada. and the border stays open to the goods and services that trade over that border, which we all know is to the tune of billions of dollars a day. Armin, in your view, was that the right announcement today?
It's hard to tell. What everybody has said is this is the guidance from the public health officials at both the federal and the provincial level. And a lot of people have been talking about why would you restrict travel from everybody, from every country except from the United States, where their reaction to the contagion has been so slow and we know that the cases are going to accelerate. On the other hand, most of the people that are coming across the border from the United States are Canadians that are returning home. Very few Americans visit Canada when there's still snow on the ground. And when they know that they can only come in and self-quarantine for 14 days or self-isolate for 14 days, that's going to reduce their desire to come anyway. So I think it's a bit of a tempest in a teapot to say, oh my gosh, why aren't we restricting these people? On the one hand. On the other hand, the contagion has not reached the proportions it is likely to reach in the United States. So even when they say, well, you know, essential workers are truck drivers bringing over supplies across the border, how are we going to make sure those truck drivers aren't contaminated? I think there's another shoe to drop on this one.
Well, that's the thing. Craig, can you just give us a brief comment on this? Would it actually, given how interconnected our economies are, would it be next to impossible to prohibit Americans from coming over the border to here for business purposes, et cetera?
Well, the economic cost to Canada would increase dramatically. I mean, if you look at each province in Canada, each province does more north-south trade than it does east-west. Our economy is oriented along north-south lines. You know, if you think about Canada, we're, you know, from an economy point of view, we're a little smaller than California, and from a population perspective, we're a little smaller than California, but we're spread across the northern border. So if you shut the Canada-U.S. border, ultimately the economic cost to Canada would be far greater. So I think that we can see that the cases in Europe are expanding, and they've expanded rapidly. Many of the governments there are taking very strong efforts to do containment. We're now restricting travel from Europe, you know, from international, except for the United States. The reason why the U.S. border is being kept open is for economic reasons. I think if the health risks increase enough, then we'll shut the Canada-U.S. border as well. But I think it's, in a sense, it's the last resort.
Okay, let's do it. We got a couple of minutes left here, and let me get each of you to weigh in on this. And I don't want to get too far out over my skis, as the expression goes, in setting up this question. But it seems 3 months later in China, as if they have got a bit of a control on this thing right now, and that supply lines are up and rolling again, and that the economy is starting to get back to whatever sense of normalcy there was. 3 months. Craig, do you think that's a reasonable timeline for this continent as well?
It's possible. The one observation is that the Chinese system, political system, is such that it was much easier to do very, very rigid and sort of totalitarian containment. I think it would be much harder to do that in Canada and in the United States. So, you know, going back to the point I made earlier, though, you know, the health officials all tell us the same thing, which is we need to take really strong actions now to bend the curve and reduce the number of cases. But if you are successful at that and you eat the economic cost, then that's how you set the stage for this virus to burn itself out. So, you know, containment is absolutely critical, and the stronger the containment, the faster we're going to get through this.
Armin, last word to you.
I couldn't agree more with what Craig just said. Everybody's saying that if we contain properly, we're looking at a 4-month horizon. But the question is, will we be able to contain properly? Will we be able to prevent potentially not enough health care for enough cases spilling over into the community, as usually women doing unpaid work do the heavy lifting and contagion continues to spread?
And that's just some of what we covered this week on the agenda. For more, including the full versions of those conversations, you can always visit our website. That's tvo.org. our YouTube channel at youtube.com/theagenda, or our Twitter feed. That's twitter.com/theagenda.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario. CPA Ontario is a regulator, an educator, a thought leader, and an advocate. We protect the public. We advance our profession. We guide our CPAs. We are CPA Ontario. And by viewers like you. Thank you.